Mr. Pye with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Several things. Let's see, that's not the first slide I need. That's not my slide. Let's see. Let's go back to the slides. I need the one that starts off with the cases per day in the state of South Carolina. That one. Just want to show you this. I know we hear all this, but I just want you to see the visual picture. Don't worry about numbers. Look where we were in March of last year this time. And then look where we have been on the journey, dropping down in October to reasonably good numbers. And those were when we were very hopeful of going to face in October. We were really gearing up for that. Then look what happened to us in January. Look at that. That made last summer look pitiful. That is bad. But then look how much it has dropped. It keeps going down. And that's a trend I want you to see. That is the state of South Carolina, all 46 counties. All right, the next slide. Well, that would help if we had somebody able to do the slides. All right, that's the cases per day in Dorchester County. Looks just like the last one, didn't it? Real high in the summer, dropping down in October, and then picking back up in January, and now on the slide downward, big slide downward in March. Okay, just want you to see that statewide and Dorchester County following the same trends. All right, the next slide. We do the 2-week data for Dorchester County, and well, that's 2 weeks data there. Well, let's say. You see the numbers we have to get to low, medium, high. This is what we started with back last year. This was what we decided would be our criteria to what model we used, and we used that pretty strongly until around the Christmas break when things were really out of whack, and we were having better success with hybrid than we were with e-learning, and of course we were all anxious to still move to face-to-face. So with that in mind, we were hopeful the trends would drop, and look at that. Look across the way there at those numbers. We were high, high, high. The numbers were going up each week. They peaked on January the 20th, at least some way, and some of them had peaked early in January. So January was a rough month for us in the district too. Then look as you go down to where we are now on March the 3rd. That number has 1/3 of what it was on January the 6th. So it has had a big drop in really just 4 weeks. So we're very hopeful what we see there. I'm still high there in that category. Our trend is we're at low there, and then percent positive numbers have dropped to 7.5, which is medium. So we're overall now a medium county, Dorchester County. This is the first time we've been median, I can't remember when, maybe back in October sometime. So that's encouraging, and those numbers have been dropping consistently, and I see that third column, it dropped almost 2 percentage points. It needs to drop 2.6, and we are at the low. And the district will be categorized as a low district. So that is what we're looking for. And so all the decisions that we're making is still being backed up by the community numbers that we're getting. These are the numbers that dictate where we go, and it shows where we've been. All right, next one. Well, first, go back to the graphs real quick. Go back to that slide before. Did you do that? There you go. Look over there, Dorchester County incident rate over time. You see it, how it's dropping, the blue line going down. Same thing over here, percent positive over time. Look at that line going down. Everything I've shown you is going down, especially in the last 2 to 3 weeks since we have begun face-to-face. So even though many people felt that was early timing, we were very concerned. It is obviously being supported by the data that we're receiving up to this point. All right, go to the next one. That's our daily. We do this each day. We take the numbers from each school. It shows the current staff that's out positive, the year-to-date numbers, the current students that are positive, year-to-date positive, quarantine staff, quarantine to date, quarantine students, and quarantine to date of those. So we show all those numbers. All right, it doesn't mean a whole lot, and I'm with the fellow that spoke, I'm like, I get this every day, but I can't do things from day to day. I got to see where we've been. I'm a graph person. Let me see it going up or down. I feel like it's going down, but I got to see it on more than one chart. So for the third or fourth chart, flip to the next one. There better be one more. That's the main one. There you go. I did this chart, so I'm proud of this one. That's what looks different than the rest of them. It's not as professional, because I don't do these things normally. This is the way I live and breathe and talk and make decisions. Look at those numbers earlier in the January period there, in February. You see them. Come on down to the bottom. It's gone up a little bit the last couple of days, but look where it was. We began face-to-face at 13, all-time low. So as of today, we're what, 19? But look at the way you have to go up to get to 19. You have to go up to February the 17th. And that's full face-to-face. On the 17th, we were not face-to-face. We were hybrid, half a class at a time. This is all class at a time. This is all buses to up to the 67% mark. This is all the kids together. So this is telltale time. How well is it going? Again, it's pretty well mirroring our public, even though our numbers have always been better inside the district than they've been outside the district. That was the reason for our decision to go face-to-face. Didn't look like I'd do a whole lot about the public, but school-wide, we were doing the right things for the right reasons. We put in everything we know to put in. We're still making major adjustments. We get calls every day about something's not the way it should be, but it should be because we've been working on it for 6 months. But some schools were more delinquent than others in turning in what they felt were their needs. I've been to a few schools and found things that need to be changed, and I had them changed on site. Teachers are very temperamental about their classrooms. They organize it. They want to keep it that way, but it's not sometimes in the best interest of the students. And if I'm in the room, I will tell you, we got to do something with this. I just left the room 2 doors down. They have the same number of desks you have, but it looks so much safer. Can I have you go down and look at that and see if we can't maybe copy that? This is not about winning room of the year. This is about safest room of the year. So if we're going to do this, let's do it right. A lot of money's been invested. A lot of time has been invested. But some people did their own things. They switched the plexiglass out with a different model that was ordered for them. Others put the wrong ones in the wrong rooms that were ordered. And some were just not ordered correctly. Not putting anybody on the bus. We do the best we can because we could have had any one of those. And I don't care for any of them particularly, but the bottom line is some are better than others. And these were the ones recommended by DHEC and by the State Department of Education. We had the best ones, but there were several models you could choose from, depending on the size of the student, the age of the student, and all. Sometimes that one and only model may not be the best one for that particular child or class, but overall, it's the best one for that level because we had minimal choices of that type of glass that we can clean and daily, and after every class they have to be cleaned. And will it hold up to the cleaning stuff that we use? So all that is monitored each and every day. We're constantly asking custodial, are you able to get the rooms cleaned? We ask Mr. Shope Transportation, are the buses being properly cleaned? Are we sure the bus limits are kept below 67%? If not, of course, when you have a bunch of drivers out and sick, then we're running double routes, and sometimes 2 routes are combined to try to get the kids to school. We consider that emergency. I don't like it, and I prefer them not do that, but that's what's happened in a couple of cases. People trying to make their schedules because they're on such tight schedules. That's pretty well it on the numbers. Any questions, board members, about those numbers? We use other things too. We're constantly using the data from the medical university. We're attached to them, and they're doing a series that we sent out last week, letting you know they've got a series of various topics that I think is very important to parents and to students and to our teachers and to me. I want to see all this because we're worried about suicide. We worry about all those things. There have always been problems for public school systems, but now with this pandemic, they've been heightened. and we need to be aware of those signs. Parents need to be. We can't do too much. And if I have to watch every one of them, anything's worth if we could save one child and so one student, and that's what we're about here. So we're linked into everybody. Several of people in the community have sent me studies. I found them very interested. We relate it to the staff. Any way we can use that in making a decision, we have. And so it's just so many things go into making that decision. There's no perfect crystal ball because there's no one source. Other districts don't all use all the same things we do, and we certainly don't use all the things they do. We talk about the things they do just in case they found out something we didn't do. I talk to the superintendents weekly and all the surrounding districts, all 9 of them. And we're very pleased where we are at. Money-wise, we're probably number 9 in the money we have to spend. But I don't think there's a single district that's ahead of us on anything, including our vaccination table. We won't say that, but wonder who was first. All right, moving along. That's all I've got in those things. I want to move into vaccination clinics. Today we began that, and I want to thank the board for your energy and efforts to work with the State Department of Education, the governor and the legislative bunch of folks up there, to bring attention that our teachers are our most valuable resource with our children. And you can't mix the children with the teachers and guarantee a safe situation. That was really bad. And we don't have a teacher in the classroom because she's sick or quarantined. We're not going to have any education. I don't care how bright the child is and how healthy they are. It's not going to happen. The teacher runs the show, always has and always will. So we cannot do without our teachers. So that quick action by you and then the quick action by our team. Molly Spearman last Tuesday had an emergency meeting, which maybe it was Wednesday Thursday? It was Tuesday. And they dropped the thing that we now can get the vaccinations. And she said, but you better call early. They were underway. I think they were given an order. When she says, right away, I want it done within 10 minutes. We're not waiting to the return call. We had a second provider. First provider is slow. Move on to number 2. We don't have time for them. We owe this to our teachers. The sad part was that they dilly-dallied around how we were going to do the first one. We already had that date set aside, or the 10th, I believe, was set aside. But they couldn't get the second date right before the spring break, and we're very discouraged by that. But again, we're at the mercy of this free dosage. This is what you do in these times. And even today we went there, all the plans. And I must say, Julie Canarans and Amanda Santa Maria as a team, it's just plumb dynamite how they got this done. And we didn't get to have our stuff today because we started planning today. They were planning before Christmas. We've been working on this constantly, not knowing if we could trust this organization to do what they promised. We were feeling pressure that our nurses needed to do it, but they didn't have the training and they didn't have the patience, I would think, and morale is low among that group, that they have so much daily to deal with the number of students that we have to keep them safe. I didn't want to put that pressure on them. You let the nurses start quitting and we're really up the creek. There are none. There are 800 to 1,000 openings in the Charleston area alone. Openings for nurses. So they'll make twice or 3 times the money they make now if that's what they want. But thank goodness we have a lot of working mothers who like the school schedule and they work with us and they like us. And we all have a good team and we've been able to keep them and to make them work as a wonderful team. And that's what's happened. They planned this today. I've been at Civil High a while this morning, and they've been there most all the morning and afternoon, and we got our students in, brought every school that was assigned. Middle and high school began at 1, was to be finished at 5? Only for us to find out at 11 o'clock this morning that the public was invited. Anybody in the public want to have your shot done, just go to Civil High School and take it. Remember now, everything is scheduled for 250 shots an hour. We didn't count on anybody but our people. We built it around them, a day-and-a-half schedule. And then we were notified that Charleston County schools, some of them were being sent to us. So we had schools from Charleston County. I know Zucker, I saw them riding up to some of the high schools. So they were getting the shots, which was fine. We want the whole community to get shots. But anybody else would have been thrown off with that. Instead, we were ahead of schedule. We were calling schools and saying your appointment's not for another hour or 2, but come on, we can get you in. So we got all those thousands of people, several thousand probably in today. We feel very good about that, and we'll finish them up on Wednesday. And the second shots will be in April. Is that right, Ms. Canarins? The 5th and the 7th. And then because it has to be done right around 4 weeks, this is Moderna, that they had to do it within 2 or 3 days of that. They didn't have any wiggle room to do it the week before or the week after as we wanted them to do it. So, and other obligations they had. Now with that done, I'm going to move on to the last topic I wanted to bring up was I need a workshop date, Madam Chairman, for the 2021 academic progress data. Thus far this school year since September, we want to give you any and all information we have, which is very sketchy, very limited, and all over the place. But we feel like we need to be transparent in getting that to you. You need to see what we're up against and why the urgency was to go back face to face. And at the same time, we applaud what our people have done and how hard they've worked. But again, we've got some lost time we have to make up. And we've got so many issues. It's hard to teach with plexiglass in front of you and a mask on your face. That's not easy. And so it's not easy for me to be talking to you like this. I feel on occasion I wouldn't do well 8 hours a day, so this wouldn't work. So Ms. Walker, you'd be glad I'm not in one of your classes. I wouldn't make it through a class period probably. But so bravo to all of our students and people for making this work. But I want to share the academic progress data and just how smooth it's been, but yet again, where we see we have to go with after-school programs, our summer initiatives, and other things that we're planning. It's going to be a short summer, too. And I debated how heavy we wanted to go with this summer with people. Our teachers are exhausted from all they've done, and our students have had a lot of moving around with their schedules and families. And sometimes you do need a break. It's just we've had a long break that wasn't a fun break. So we hate to not have one. So we will be offering lots of things for the summer with the feeling that come August, it's going to be heavy duty. And so I'm kind of backed off from the every day and every minute of the summer being to make up the work. I think traditional school schedule was designed that way on that type of calendar for people to have breaks, for people to re-energize and to do so. We will be planning that, and we're planning that as we speak. So with that, I'd like to have a workshop whenever you think is available to, the board will tell me.
I think most of the board members have spoken to me about requesting this information, so this is very important information that I think all of us have been wanting to hear. So saying that, does anybody have a problem if we do a workshop, and Mr. Pye, can you be prepared for us if we do one at before our next board meeting?
Yes, but I think you have a budget workshop.
We do have a budget workshop.
That's why I'm
scheduled for
saying
that?
all this. We got all kind of conflicts.
Okay. I don't have my calendar in front of me. How about if you and I get together and work on
Okay,
a
we can
date
do
on
that.
this,
I just-
and then I get with board members just to give them a couple of dates,
Okay.
put a couple of dates out there. So I think that's the best
Very
thing to
good.
do.
We're wide open
Rather than
whenever you
trying
want
to do this
We're
here
ready.
now.
It's ready.
Okay,
We were going to do it tonight, but the virtual program we felt was a necessity to get that off the table.
okay. Well, Mr. Pye and I will get together on that, and then we'll send out a couple of dates to choose from, and then we'll kind of go from there, if everybody's okay with that.
Oh.
Okay.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pye. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pye or comments? Nope, okay. All right, we're going to move on then to our personnel report. Board members, in your package, you should have received the information for the recommendations and resignations for the 2021 school year. Does anybody have a problem with doing those in open session? Okay, I need a motion to approve those, please.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Robinson, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay, and next on the agenda then would be our committee reports, and we're going to begin with our facilities team. Mr. Farnsworth.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. It is that time of the year when the Facilities Committee goes through and we do all of our walkthroughs with our leadership team. That, of course, is in preparation, getting into the budget season and working on our capital improvement plans. So for the board members here, you should have gotten, and it's in the packet, the list of the walkthroughs coming up. So over the next next 2.5 weeks, we've got all of our walkthroughs at all the schools. Please encourage any board member, myself and I know Mr. Guthrie as well, both on the committee, we will try to be at as many of those walkthroughs as we can. But please, as other board members, if you're able to come to those walkthroughs, by all means, please do. The one, just to make sure, and it was in the packet, the one on Thursday, March 11th. Yes. For Dorchester and Joe Pye Elementary Schools switched, and so just make sure everyone sees that. The other thing, and just quickly, it all kind of blends in because it leads, we as board members know, we had commissioned a facility study recently, last year. And so, the goal this year of our committee and the facility walkthroughs is really to blend all of that together with that commission study, as well as our walkthroughs and chatting with our principals and administrators, putting all that together to come back to the board, with, of course, our capital improvement needs as a district. And so we are on task. We are getting it done, and everything starts tomorrow afternoon. Please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Farnsworth? No? And that is certainly a task that's, although it's a lot of fun to get to visit the schools and get to, talk to people and everything, that is definitely a very hard task to do, and it's a very large undertaking. So thank you, too, for doing that for us on that, with that team, and I would certainly encourage any board member to go to that as well. So next thing on the agenda then would be our legislative team, and the chair of that is Ms. Robinson.
Well, thank you, Ms. Hughes. As you know, about a month ago, we had the resolution, the letter that we were going to send out to all of our local delegates regarding vaccines and how it was important for our teachers to get those vaccines ASAP, because the teachers and the district had done everything on their end, and we wanted them to help us. We didn't just mail them out. This committee went to see several of them. We met with Chris Murphy and we met with Gil Gatch about a month ago, Ms. Hughes, Ms. Wimberly, and myself, and we spoke with both of them about this. They did not have a problem with that, and they thought that that would be something that should be done quite quickly. For us, it wasn't quick enough, but I think it made an impact. And the others, we tried to reach out to Ms. Cummings, but she was out of town. But we did email, we snail mailed everybody, all of them. And thank you, Ms. Rayner, for preparing that for us. It looked great. Also, we met with Sean Bennett. Ms. Wimberly and I did this past week, and we were given 20 minutes, but we were in there for an hour and a half. And this time, we listened to him. Usually when we go, we do the talking, and they know that. That's what they're there for, is to hear us. It was very insightful. He gave us some good suggestions, and he is definitely an advocate of DD2, and he's also a very honest person, and he will tell you what he doesn't think might happen and what he does think might happen. He assured me, and it has come to fruition, that, let me put my glasses on, that the H3609, that bill, was going to restore, and we reminded him nicely, it wasn't something that they were getting all of a sudden, it was restoring a frozen step increase. And he said that's not going to be a problem, it will happen. And of course, that is happening. We also discussed the S317 that I don't know if a lot of people know this, but evidently the steps for teachers' salaries stop after they've been there for 24 years. And we didn't think that was especially right. And so there is an amendment, and it is going to extend the state teacher's salary schedule from 23 to 28 years. The reason for this, it's going to retain veteran seasonal teachers, which is very good because that's going to save money in training new teachers, and it's going to save money in going out and recruiting teachers. And Mr. Bennett felt that was going to be a good, not to worry about that one as well. There was something that was interesting that has come up, and they are meeting. There is going to be a meeting tomorrow, too, but it's the S208, and it was approved amendment this past week regarding schools of innovation. You know, those are kind of our special schools, and even though it doesn't affect us yet, it could. And we've all talked about this as public educators, that it's not fair that the testing be different for charter schools and for these schools of innovation versus public schools. There's a school, I think it's in Spartanburg, and they have these wonderful grades, but they're not held accountable the same way the public schools are. And so they are trying to define and refine those amendments so that they have to have financial records just like public schools do, and that they also have to have testing like public schools do, so that it's on an equal playing field. Let's see, then there's another part to that. These schools will now be required to have the same test scores reporting, not just having them, but have them reported. There's also the S0016, completion of certain basic personal finance classes. Our district's already ahead of that. We implemented that this past year, and so the State Department of Education and the legislators are trying to pass this bill, and it will be a half credit. And as you recall, that's what our freshmen, we already had that for our freshmen, and that's part of it, was the finance coursework for high school. Also, there is a bill S38. It seems like all these bills are positive. It makes me feel good, especially for educators, for teachers. This is yet another one. The colleges already have Education in American Constitutional Heritage Act, where they have to study the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the federal papers. Now, Sean Bennett says that he felt like that probably applied to high schools as well, but he was going to check on it. He wasn't sure. But this new bill, even though he thinks it's already there and they're going to amend it, that high schools need to also study the U.S. Constitution, the federal papers, and the Declaration of Independence. I don't know what history teacher would not want to do that anyway, because that's our foundation of why we exist, and that is going to be a 3-credit hour class. So, Madam Chairman, that's my report, and thank you and Ms. Wimberly and everybody for helping with the letter and getting that out.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Robinson? That was a lot of information. Thank y'all so much for doing that. That was great. There was a lot of great news in there, so thank y'all. Next on the agenda, under new business, the 21-22 proposed school year calendar. I'm going to turn this time over to Ms. Rayner.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes, members of the board. We would like to present on behalf of the calendar committee, as well as all of the school and district administrators, the proposed calendar for next school year. I'll have to say it was quite a much less laborious task this year, because just the way those calendar actual days fall, there weren't any big controversial hot spots that sometimes occur in various years. But in talking, of course, we collaborate with our sister districts, Berkeley, Charleston, and District 4, in the development of the calendar, and they said they experienced the same thing. So I'll just go right into, and this calendar, once it left the committee, which was composed of parents, administrators, teachers, support staff, sysops, just a range of stakeholders that did contribute greatly to the development. So we will just jump right to the end. The First day for students would be August the 16th. That law is still in place that school districts may not bring students back to the classroom before the third Monday in August, but that works well this year since it's a little earlier. September is rather uneventful. October, we do have the end of the quarter. School districts must have 10 staff development teacher work days throughout the year. So our teachers all feel, supported by administrators, that those work days need to be in conjunction with the end of the quarter for obvious reasons, to wrap up the quarter and all. An interesting discussion, just for your information, interesting discussion from the committee this year. They felt that it would be extremely helpful for teachers to have that work day after the end of the quarter, to wrap up grades, to get makeup tests, those kinds of things, which was an interesting perspective, and so that's indeed what we did. The committee did. November is the same with our holiday at Thanksgiving. Christmas fell very nicely, half day on the 17th, and then we began the winter break on the 20th. Students come back January the 3rd. We have the end of the semester, which is very important to have that teacher work day in there, especially for our high schools as we are transitioning to the second semester, and that sometimes involves class changes, scheduling, etc. And then Martin Luther King holiday. February, we have a teacher work day scheduled on a Friday, and then President's Day, of course, is a holiday. March, end of this quarter, and we have a teacher work day. Spring break, with Easter being a little later this, or in 2022, the 17th of April, spring break will be prior to Easter. The feeling of all of the educators and even parents, it is the best time to have spring break because you don't want to get too close to the testing window that does come a little bit later in the spring. And this is, I think, the nicest part. The whole committee just smiled for days after this. The last day for students would actually be on the Friday before Memorial Day. That has not happened in a long time. And the committee and all of our teachers and principals were extremely pleased with that. Now, teachers will have to come back the Tuesday after Memorial Day, but that is a work day, and for some situations, certainly it's an opportunity for a trade day for those employees that do volunteer time throughout the school year. So that is, be glad to take any questions. I will note the major holiday of winter break and the Easter break is the same for all school districts. So that doesn't happen very often, but that is certainly a very good thing for our families who live in one area and work in another. So that all of the districts have that. District 4 will be presenting their proposed calendar next week for their school board. They have two options they're looking at. One is identical to ours. The other one is a little bit different. So they start a class for their students on the 18th of August, and they do not end their school year until that first week in June. So we will know more about what their decision is, of course, after their board meeting. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Raymer?
Just a very quick question. I see we had or it's down there, an e-learning day. Did we just not use?
Thank you for bringing that up. As we are an e-learning district, Mr. Pye, you certainly can add more knowledgeably about this than I can. Because we are an e-learning district, we will be having 3 e-learning days during the school year. That's a part of being an e-learning district. The superintendent's cabinet and with input from principals felt that we get the calendar approved and then the curriculum staff would work to see where those 3 e-learning days would be best used to support instruction, to support, just not to name an instructional day, but to really look at it closely to see where it would be most beneficial during the first semester, second semester. Now, I will say this, which is the thought. The committee suggested that we might look at having 1 e-learning day on election day. It's not a general election. We do not have to close. Berkeley is not closing their schools that day. Charleston is. But that was a suggestion of the committee to perhaps have that as an e-learning day, which would be, a definite possibility to use it for, to accomplish several things. And also, Mr. Pye and the cabinet are still discussing the possibility of whether we will have any early dismissal days this coming year for teacher planning, and that has not been determined at this point, but certainly will be added to the calendar.
Gotcha, yeah, perfect. So kind of like we did with the half-days, or we will add those in afterwards.
That's right.
I would just say, the earlier the better, the earlier we know those dates
Absolutely.
to put that out. Is there a limit, so on the e-learning side of things, so let's say that there were some sort of hurricane evacuation or something where we can now use, or flooding or whatever may happen, is there a limit on the number of e-learning days we can have in a year?
And Julie and Glenn, you may speak more to this than I can, but I believe the way that guidelines for that reads up to 5 days can be taken as e-learning days.
I'm going to oppose any e-learning days unless it's an emergency. So I don't care what they say in Columbia. It's just, I've had my fill of it. So the bottom line is, we'll use it for emergencies only, as that you indicated exactly that's what it's intended to. When the staff and the students can't be transported to a school building, they have no choice but be at home. We can't afford for kids to miss 2 and 3 weeks of school because of a hurricane. That's where we would then institute the e-learning so that learning continues, and we're good at it. We've gotten as good as you can get with it, but that's what it's intended for. It's not intended to be used just to have a day off, or let's have a planning day for teachers, so let's go to e-learning. I'm not going to allow that.
Got it. I'll make a motion to accept the 2021-2022 calendar as proposed.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the calendar as proposed. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Crosby. Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Rayner.
Thank you.
This actually is probably one of the very best calendar layouts that I've seen in a long time. So thank you very much for you and your team, all that you've done to make that happen. Okay, we're moving on to unfinished business. And under unfinished business, I have a report from the South Magnolia Event Group, an update from Ms. Crosby.
I really do not have a report, other than the fact that I did not realize that y'all had already received the invitation for this coming Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. So I was going to announce that because it's not really a public event. It's just, certain people. But, everything's on schedule and everything is, the turf is ordered and we're ready to put the turf down.
Ms. Crosby, have they began the removal of the turf or removal of the grass now as it is, or anything at this point? No. Do we know when that's scheduled to start or anything? Have we come up with anything? No?
I have not heard anything on that. Tony, have you heard anything on that? Is Tony here?
I don't see him.
Okay. No, I have not been contacted about it, and I've been right on, every time we meet.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Crosby. We appreciate that. We appreciate you serving on that committee. The next is the board workshop summary. Mr. Pye and Dr. Harrison.
Board workshop.
Tonight's summary.
Oh, I'm
Of the board.
Dr. Harrison, would you give us a brief summary of our workshop tonight and basically the questions that we were posed and reposed back?
Yes, sir. Tonight, we met to discuss the future of the virtual academy. We outlined to the board the 2 options, whether we go with a school-based model or a district-based model. We put a proposal forward to the board based on feedback from our district leadership team as well as our school principal leadership teams, that basically we are proposing a district program where we would have districts taught at a central location, or teachers teaching from home, depending on space in the academy and grade levels and the need for space, making that decision. So we also talked about adding 4th and 5th grade to our application process that will be sent out to parents to see the need for students in grades 4 and 5, but proposed and got feedback from the board that we will have a district-based model for 4 through 12, pending the demand at the levels 4 and 5 in the elementary.
Well done, good.
Very good. You took good notes. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda then is other business. We have a update on the SCSBA annual convention. And at that convention, there were 3 of us that attended that convention, myself, Ms. Robinson, and Ms. Wimberly. And I just want to begin by saying, I think that convention was so well thought out. As far as safety was concerned, there were hand sanitizing everywhere you turned around. Everyone had to wear their mask. Everybody was consistently 6 feet apart. Temperature checks were when you walked in the door. If you went to the restroom and came back in, you got another temperature check. So, I mean, and there was somebody always there on duty to check your temperature, but it became quite comical, actually. But anyway, it was very safety oriented to begin with. So I think because of that, we had to go through Commerce to even have this. So we had guidelines that had to be followed and a limited number of people that were able to attend. And as long as we didn't go over that number and followed these guidelines, everything was good. So we did that, and it turned out very well. I'm going to ask Ms. Wimberly and Ms. Robinson if they would like to allude to maybe some of the things that they learned, or maybe some of the topics that they felt were interesting at some of the workshops that were attended. Ms. Wimberly, would you like to begin?
Sure. I would just like to say that I was very grateful for the opportunity to attend. Being a new board member, I am taking advantage of every opportunity I can to learn. I certainly have lots of questions and lots of things to learn. I enjoyed very much that we were able to have this convention in person, just because for me it was nice to get to make some connections, meet some other leaders across the states, have some collaboration, good communication, just ask questions. I especially enjoyed the breakout kind of mini sessions. They were very informative. I went to a couple different ones. One was on COVID practices and just listening to what other schools are doing, and one was on board policies and our role in that, which to me was very interesting, and I was able to ask a lot of good questions and get some great feedback and meet a lot of people. So it was an excellent opportunity. I'm glad I was able to take advantage of it, and again, I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Wimberly. Ms. Robinson?
And Ms. Wimberly, if you liked this one, you're going to love the next one, because there were things we were not able to do, and I'm glad it was your first time and you were able to see and learn so much. But with it being so minimized, we didn't get the full scope of what we usually do, but it was so good. And I went to something I don't usually go to. I'm usually into the curriculum with our leaders in the district, or board policies, or superintendent, board relations. I went to the sports one. That was a highlight, because there's a lot of questions about what's going on with sports for this year and the year to come. So it enlightened me, and it helped me. You can always learn new things, and you are refreshed from the things you didn't learn. And even though we couldn't all be together because of the 6 foot, I mean, the auditorium, it looked like a chess game because people were just everywhere, but nowhere close to each other. But afterwards, we found a way to visit and share things that were going on in other districts. And I have to say, like I always do when I leave here, and I told Ms. Wimberly this, we just have one of the best districts ever, because when they would hear what we were doing, we're so ahead of some of the districts. One of the workshops that they gave is stuff we've been doing for a whole year. And I don't mean to be smug, and I know that we have to be humble because we don't do everything right, but I left there thinking, we're doing good. And it just reinforced our leadership, our principals, our teachers. They're doing wonderful jobs to make our district look so good.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. The next on the agenda is the new board member orientation, and Ms. Wimberly had the pleasure of attending that, so I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that.
Sure, I did finally have the pleasure of attending. I was grateful again for this opportunity. It felt like I should have had this a couple months ago, but I understand obviously timing, and with COVID, it was maybe a little bit later than normal. But yes, it was an excellent orientation. Lots of good information presented about the roles and responsibilities of board members, some budget 101 information, presentations from the South Carolina Ethics Commission, presentations regarding FOIA, and then also just some good discussion between people who are currently serving and have served on other boards throughout the state for many years, and just their take on things. And a lot of it is just practical, good information to hear. So I enjoyed it very much, and found it very, very helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Wimberly. Okay, next on the agenda is our public comments, and I have one public comment, and that is Mr. Philip Hall.
Thank you all for having me tonight. First, I want to start off by saying that I really appreciate it. I know it was a long way to get into where we're at, having face-to-face and our children being back in school, and that is well appreciated. However, I also do want to say that the question's got to be asked now. I'm very thankful that all of our teachers are getting vaccinated. However, once they are completely vaccinated, a lot of parents are out there asking, how long do the children still have to wear masks for? How long does the plexiglass have to stay up for? Just before I came up here, just for gee whiz, I Googled, does plexiglass work? Because there was just a recent study that came out, and it said there's just as much proof that masks and plexiglass don't work protecting this virus as do work. And I Googled it, and there was about 5 articles that came up saying why the reasons plexiglass really doesn't stop this virus. Some of the comments that parents said, one parent said, my children complain about masks every day and plexiglass every day. They can't see, they can't breathe. It's really an unnecessary distraction. Another one wrote, this is what my daughter sees every day, and she sent me a short video. She says, it breaks my heart to see the anxiety that she has when the plexiglass up. Another one said, yes, they even have to wear it during PE. I think it's ridiculous. Another parent said, same thing, it was a PE issue. What I would be surprised is, I think if you talk to teachers, I think a lot of teachers, after they got this vaccination and they wore, I think they may come back and say that too, because from what I also understand that some teachers don't like it either, because they really can't hear with their students. They feel like they're still not getting that full interaction, that full normal that we had before this all started. And I think it all goes back to just parents having a choice again. If some parents don't feel comfortable and they still want their kids to go wear a mask to school, or some teachers still want to wear a mask at school, hey, by all means, but also give the parents a choice that their kids, if they're out there playing across the street from where our children play, across from Joseph Pye Elementary, without masks, they're out running around, and they're at their friend's house, nobody's wearing a mask, but then they go to school and they got to go out for PE and still wear a mask running around, and we know it's going to get warmer because we know how hot South Carolina gets. It's just really uncomfortable for everybody. So I truly believe, I know that we spent, and Lord knows our state and government could spend a lot of money, but we can't make our children suffer because of the money that could have been spent in other ways. I believe could have been spent giving more teachers bonuses or pay raises, but I don't know if that plexiglass was definitely, well, I will say, I don't think it was spent well with the amount of money that was spent for how long it's going to be used for. I believe our elderly have, obviously, that passed on. I feel bad for them and their families. I think our children have paid the ultimate price, and we don't know how long they're going to pay that price mentally, emotionally, and socially. We may not know for decades, but I think we need to get them back to normal as soon as possible. Before I leave here, though, I also want to say, as I always do, there's a teacher, Miss Krause, at my son's middle school. He had a device in his mouth recently put in, and she showed genuine concern for him, and that really meant a lot to him and to us as parents. And she's a great teacher, and that middle school principal you have there is awesome. He's always very responsive to us. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I apologize, a bit unorthodox. I got an email just prior to our meeting. I guess there was an accident out front of our building, and so one of our teachers, I think Miss Mary Rita Watson, wanted to fill out a public comment card, but was not able to get here because of that accident. So I would leave it up to your
Okay,
discretion.
is she here?
They are. So completely your discretion, but I just wanted to bring it up. Thank you.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, we understand these things happen. So who is going to speak? Would it be Barb? Okay, yeah, come on up.
Good evening. I'm smiling if you can't tell.
We can see it in your eyes.
I'm here this evening representing the Somerville Education Association. After school today, I emailed 4 pictures to each of you. I picked 2 teachers who represent the size of most of our male students. And as you can see, the plexiglass barely reaches the top of one teacher's head and doesn't reach the top of the other teacher's head at all. The plexiglass also does not protect from the sides, and you can tell that by sitting next to you. The plexiglass doesn't slide easily forward or back, and it falls apart if you move it too much. The plexiglass is doing nothing more than protecting lunches and laptops. These pictures are to demonstrate that despite having plexiglass, the plexiglass does nothing to protect students or staff. At the high school level, masks are protecting us. Although we've been given the first of 2 vaccines, the members of our association wanted to let you know that we do not feel it appropriate to consider removing any school-wide mask mandates at this time. We want to thank you again for your proactive work in securing vaccinations for our staff. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, board members, I now need a motion to go into executive session for legal advice regarding the MOU with Dorchester County Library Partnership and legal advice regarding the Somerville TIF.
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. We will return. Ready? Okay, I need a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Wimberly. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. We have no action that is required for our executive session, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Mr. Farnsworth. All in favor? 7-0. Have a great evening.